A lecture was held in honor of the late doctor and activist Beko Ransom Kuti. The lecture, the 13th in its series, was organized by the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, CDHR. Speakers at the program spoke on the implications of vote buy-in as Nigeria gears up for another set of elections. Second Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association, Monday Obani, noted with regret how the country has experienced an astronomical rise in the cases of vote buy-in since 2017. This, he said, is tearing the fabrics of Nigeria's democracy. Obani attributed the menace will continue if underlying issues like massive poverty in the land is not addressed. His position was also shared by other guest speakers who called for proper education of the people.
So if you are preaching this sermon of stop selling your vote, it doesn't make sense to them because they have not eaten for weeks, they have not eaten for months, and now somebody is coming now to offer them 5,000 naira, and that will go a long way for their family, and you are now preaching to them they shouldn't accept it. We also should examine our own conscience also, because these guys don't have any.
Because vote buying is nothing but a corrupt act. The person we are organizing this event, in memory of today, the late Dr. Ransom Kuti, I doubt very much that he will encourage such nonsense. Anybody bring him up, we should see him immediately as an enemy. He is not supposed to be where he is.
Meanwhile, renowned human rights lawyer Femi Falana submitted that vote buying has not only been perpetrated by the poor. He said the menace is systemic and has rubbed off on other stakeholders in the electoral process. He therefore demanded enforcement of penalties for defaulters as enshrined in the Constitution.
Policemen and soldiers and prison officials who are involved in election monitoring or whatever, special duty, also collect money officially and unofficially. So when we are now gathered to talk about vote buying, we are blaming poor voters who are dehumanized by the system, without talking about the fact that the system itself encourages it.
Also speaking, the cousin to the late Beko Ransom Kuti, Yemisi Ransom Kuti, noted that to bring about the desired change in Nigeria, many issues must be addressed from the grassroots. She urged Nigerians not to shy away from engaging public officers, especially at the local government level. Another legal practitioner, while giving a comparative analysis of activism in the past and present, charged rights activists never to compromise in their struggles.
Who's my local government chairman? The man on my street, the leader in the school in our area, the principals, the doctor in the local hospitals, general hospitals. All those foci of development. How are we coming together?
You have a right to education. You have a right to good health. You have a right to clean environment. You have a right to have means of sustaining your life, not handouts.
Alright, welcome back. It's still Galaxy today. We're going to Ibadan right now where Dr. Badil Ojo is standing by. He is an associate professor, political science department from the University of Ilorin. Many thanks for standing by. Alright, let's talk 2019. It's 6 days to the elections and a lot of people doing last minute and last hour preparations. The campaigns are rife and a lot of issues are coming here and there. But let's talk about issues that happened just last week with the Supreme Court's judgment on River State and, of course, Zamfara State, where the APC will not be fielding candidate. I just want to get your reactions concerning the pronouncement from last week.
Supreme Court judgment came very late. Very late in the sense that the APC candidate in Rivers will not have sufficient time to prepare for the election. I think judiciary will expeditiously attend to cases. That is one thing. But that notwithstanding, if a party is popular and a candidate is popular, even within 2 weeks, you can win an election. So the beauty of it, the lesson from it is that judiciary should stop delaying, ensure that cases are handled urgently, if they are urgent, more so when they have to do with elections. That's my own take.
Let's hear from the perspective of the legal practitioner here in Lagos, Barrister Ivan Ofeli. The Supreme Court, has passed its judgment under the Rivers APC, saying that they were not barred from contesting election. But let's just break it down to us what the judgment really meant.
Well, before I go there, let me just add to what he has said over there. He talked about the judiciary not being very expeditious in taking cases like this so that you have a proper. I think that in as much as that is correct to understand, there's also a part to which we must understand that the judiciary can only start to act when the parties commence action. And if you look at the reverse, the actions commenced after the pre-election, that is the primaries, where you have factions. The factions were disorganized, they had different issues contrary to the Electoral Act. And it was after the primaries that they went to court. Okay, but what we should say is that since election matters, you have 180 days within which to decide it. We should also extend pre-election matters and give it time limit. That is, maybe that should be what we should do to improve our laws. But as to the judgment of the Supreme Court is the apex court in the land, and any judgment from the Supreme Court cannot be appealed against, it cannot be stayed, it can't bring a stay of execution on that of the Supreme Court. From the Federal High Court, where the action was commenced, it went to the Court of Appeal. From the Court of Appeal, it went to the Supreme Court. The proper contention of the court, the main expression of the court here is that the conduct of the primaries were at variance with the Electoral Act. And the law have said clearly that the Supreme Court have ruled that once you have non-compliance, substantial non-compliance with the Electoral Act, and the said non-compliance of the Electoral Act affect the outcome of any electioneering, there must be certain legal pronouncements as to what should be the next phase. In that of Rivers, there was a total crisis at the APC structure during the primaries. We have a faction that is loyal to the former governor of Rivers State, and we have another faction that is also playing at par. They had two primaries, one for one faction, one for the other faction. They had direct primaries, they had indirect primaries, unknown to law. These things were invented by these persons in that state, contrary to the lady. The Electoral Act is so clear as regards what should be done, okay? And now the judgment has been given as regards that they cannot fill in candidates, okay? They can't really and they can't even go back because the number of days required by INEC for each political parties to send in the names of their candidate has even expired. And now you have a judgment that says you cannot fill in. So as it stands now, the position of the law is that there will be no candidate for that political party in that state. And that is what we stand.
I mean, so in this issue, in this scenario now, doesn't it really affect the electorate now? Because as it is now, they will not really be getting representation for the National Assembly elections.
Yes, it does affect the electorate, but much more than the fact that it affects the electorate, we should also know that the actors, political actors, who truncated the law from the outset should not find safe landing at the end of their mischief. Well, we are sorry that the electors who desire that they have representation of the political parties in the House of, and all the cadres should have had them. But that what the main stake is that during the primaries, they created a serious problem for which the law will only address the way it has addressed it. So it is important that this become instructive to politicians, because their followers really have little or nothing to do with what has happened. It's just by the sheer combat and desperation of their prospective leaders who have taken the laws into their hand and then created a different political party, a different political system and framework outside the Electoral Act. And you cannot put something or nothing and expect it to stand. It will definitely collapse. So the Supreme Court have in its wisdom to avoid people reaping from the fruit of violence they have created. Then they have to be punished. They have to be, deterred from doing same, thereafter.
All right, let's still talk to Dr. Badeojo. I'm sure you've been following the conversation. The legal practitioner here has given us a bit of a perspective, concerning the judgment for Rivers State and how it has or will affect the electorate, specifically members, who support the All Progressives Congress (APC). Having said that, in your opinion, you are a political scientist, so I just want to get a little bit of background. The APC, people who would ordinarily want to vote the APC for the National Assembly elections cannot do that. What does this really tell, politically? Let me just get a bit of a background from you.
And you see, the only problem is the fact that APC candidates did not have sufficient time to prepare for that election in terms of, one, time to campaign, in terms of time needed to articulate their views on what they are likely to do when they get to National Assembly or when they take over government as a governor. So preparation for election takes time. When judgment is coming so late and the electorate have not been sufficiently, they will be voting for APC at the polls. But with the judgment and few days to the election, the negative impact will be with the National Assembly election and presidential election, right? But the issue really that went to the Supreme Court has nothing to do with the presidential election. No doubt, Mr. President had gone there to campaign. The party members had been working on their members. APC members will vote for their party, and other lovers of the party will vote for their party. Forget about the short period in terms of the judgment. Even after the presidential election, we still have a few days before the governorship election. The governorship candidate has the time, who may be going around there every day, 24 hours campaigning. To really love APC in Rivers, they will vote for their party. That is it.
All right, Dr. Ojo, I still want to talk about the judiciary in all of this, because right now a lot of people are seemingly confused. Specifically, let's talk about the case of Ogun State, where the People's Democratic Party, where we have like two gladiators, contesting one seat, and one of the the stakeholders there is saying that the mandate should be given to him because he doesn't understand why the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) will actually give them release the name of another candidate when they are supposed to be two subsisting court judgment. If you were to say concerning, the issue in Ogun State PDP, what would your reactions be concerning the issue of Honorable Ladi Adebutu and, of course, Senator Broji Kashamo?
You see, for me, as a political scientist, it is unfortunate that our judiciary is what it is today. Unfortunate in the sense that the court seems to be delivering contradictory judgment on same issue. And INEC is at a crossroad and at a dilemma. Which court judgment should they obey or comply with? In Ogun State, few days to the election, Kashami is campaigning, Adebutu is campaigning. Nobody is sure of who is going to fly the flag of the judiciary is expected to have adjudicated. They are supposed to tell us who is the candidate of PDP. If eventually elections should come and go, PDP should win in Ogun State, and the other person in PDP should go to court, and Supreme Court should say, look, you are not the person that ought to contest election. The scenario that may play out is what played out in Old River State at the time of Uba. Don't forget Uba and Rotimi Amechi. When Amechi did not campaign, the court made Amechi governor in his first term without campaign. And Uba that was sworn in was removed. We don't need to be at that juncture anymore. By now, our judiciary is supposed to be firm. While lawyers normally will be busy with technicality, the judges are there to interpret the law as it is, pure and simple. Once again, it is unfortunate that judiciary keep on delivering contradictory judgment on same issue. It does not help our democracy. Democracy is about the rule of law. Democracy is about the law. Democracy is about what is see that the Electoral Act says, and it is the primary responsibility of the court to interpret the law, to tell us the spirit of the law and the letter of the law.
Thank you so much. We've been speaking with Dr. Bade Ojo, Associate Professor of the University of Ilorin, Department of Political Science. Many thanks for being a part of the show. All right, we're still expecting your messages. We'll take some of them, but let's just get Barrister Ofeli's perspective concerning the issue of the Ogun PDP.
Yes, let me take off from where he stopped. He talked about the Ogun PDP gubernatorial candidates taking the way of the old, during the Amechi and Celestino Mayor's case in River State. Let me state that this has been corrected by the Electoral Act. It is one of the innovations of the Electoral Act 2010. You know, that election was conducted under the old Electoral Act. Okay. The new Electoral Act now had made it clear that if you did not participate in all the stages of the election, you cannot be sworn in as a governor any longer. So because in that one, Amechi did not contest election. Okay. In the primaries, he was taken away and someone else was put in his place. I was denied that opportunity at the primaries level and all that. And that is not the same with what is going on here. Because what is going on in Ogun State is people disobeying court judgment. A court has given a judgment against you. You are still going on campaigning, acting as everything is okay. Your followers are still with you. You have been able to sell yourself enough to them, irrespective of what the judiciary or what the court have said. And concurrently, you are moving with the right candidate.
Who are you?
No, if you look at the judgment of the court that was given, Kashimu, okay, was giving judgment, okay, and the other contestant and its lawyer believes that they still have a stake in the race. And then it is not so much about what the court is saying, but as to the level of who is popular amongst the contestants. So people do this because, one, we have taken so much of the laws into our hands that we think we are so powerful as individuals, and then we cannot really respect whatever is coming out from the judge. I don't see the conflicting judgments that he's talking about. Each court, if you go to the High Court now, and the High Court gives a judgment, and you are dissatisfied, you have the right to appeal, okay, to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal will give its own judgment. It might be, it's either it upholds the judgment of the High Court or upturns it. If it upturns it, it does not mean that the court is giving contradictory judgment. This High Court judgment was upturned by the Court of Appeal, could be affirmed by the Supreme Court or upturned by the Supreme Court. It does not mean it's contradictory. One level has its own powers. At the High Court level, only one person looks at it. One judge looks at the case. When it gets to the Court of Appeal, you have several persons looking at one case. At the Supreme Court, you have 7 justices looking at one case. You don't expect to have the same outcome, because at that level of the Supreme Court, it's not going to be by vote. If 3 judges decide this way and one decide the other way, that of the 3 judges will stand, okay? So that is the position. And you don't expect the 7 of them to see it the same way, because they are from different background. They see the inputs and the impact of law differently, and then the case, and then the story that culminated to the issue. So the issue of contradictory judgments, if it's coming from the same court, when a court has given a judgment, it becomes functious official, meaning that its powers, it can no longer sit on the same matter. It has settled. You understand? So I'm just trying to clear the issue of talking about contradictory judgment. I think that in Ogun State, the PDP should put their house in order. And then possibly there's a leadership of that party in that state, so that they can come together and look at what the judiciary have done and then act accordingly. Because what is going on there now is a deliberate attempt to just create crisis in that state. And I think that should be watched and that should be condemned.
All right. Let's take some of the comments that have come in this morning. This one says, this election will be peaceful. INEC should be allowed to carry out their duties without pressure. Nigerians complain too much even before the elections. PDP is complaining to lay foundation for dispute and rejection of eventual result if they lose. This is their antecedent for 16 years. They were rigging. Surprise is coming. This one says, morning, please help us to force our government to stop vote buying. People bought over when they get money and food. Nigerians are not forced to collect. Okay, I maybe have to paraphrase what you wrote. I couldn't really get a hang of what you are saying. All right, a lot of people are, saying that this election, there are evidence or to suggest, or there are insinuations to suggest that there will be, there's a likelihood of the elections being rigged. If I were to play devil's advocate, would you say that is true?
The tendencies are there. And you see, it is not the electors or the supporters that engineers the rigging process. It is the politicians that empower them to do so. You have a country where politicians keep talks and arm them. Okay, several of them are standing trial for those cases, issues like that. They keep talks and arm them. Now when you arm a talk, you keep them, feed them, pay them money. You are doing all that for them to do your biddings. Yes. And when they get out there, they will use those apparatus to make sure that the politicians come to power. Whether it's ballot snatching, whether it's paying people to vote, or whether it's outright taking the voting materials to the bush and begin to thumbprint, something like that. That is why it was so devastating when the president declined signing the new Electoral Amendment Act, because that would have taken care of so many things. It would have taken care of electronic transmission, okay, so that you don't have to do manual movement in the riverine areas. You have to be on speedboat for 2-3 hours to get results to collation centers and to get things done. But when you have an electronic system, all you need is data and an internet facility to transmit results. But since the current political party is afraid of such, because that is what it seems like. Now we are still going to do those logistics. The card readers, you are still going to fill incident forms. Through incident form, you have reading. Because then you can begin to just fill any form, whether they have PVCs or not. You can begin to just, somebody will be somewhere filling forms, that those people, the card reader did not read their card proper, therefore, because incident forms, you cannot track them to the number of persons who came out to vote, or the number of PVCs that the card reader read on that day. You understand? So if we say that 20 persons were, the card reader was unable to capture the data of 20 persons. That is what it is. Whether there are 20 or not, whatever we give as a figure is what happened. And then you cannot monitor, because from that, so if we had all these things taken care of, by now we'll not be talking about using incident forms. That's where the rigging stuff from. Now we'll not be talking about politicians also paying INEC officials to do their biddings. Okay, there should be a way to sever all INEC officials from contenders or political, perhaps I don't know how it can be done, but I think that there should be a mechanism, either through communication or whatever, to make sure that they are not, in the payroll of this politician. Because when this happens, you will find out that they will close their eyes to the true result and then write whatever it is, and then they get it delivered. So we must watch this. And then the ad hoc staff, the university lecturers and the professors that are going to be using this, we must be sure that we have selected those who are patriotic, those who want to see Nigeria succeed. Because if we don't get it right by electioneering, we cannot get any other thing right. And that is very fundamental. And international communities are watching, looking at what is going on, how the processes, even though the processes is antiquity, they are also looking at how transparent that can be in the whole thing. So I think it is fair that the INEC have come out to say they are ready. And it's also fair that ASU has called off strike for its this thing to be used in the process. But while we watch and look at it, let's also be optimistic that this will go down well and it will be violent free.
All right, we must say a very big thank you to you, Barrister Evans Ofeli, for joining us on Galaxy today and talking about all of these issues as we head to the polls on Saturday. We do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And all the way from Ibadan, we had Dr. Bade Ojo, Associate Professor from University of Ilorin, the Department of Political Science. I want to say thank you. And also from Abuja, Shehu Gaba, the National Secretary of the SDP. A big thanks to you. And for you, start back to enjoy this. It's countdown to election. Please, no violence. Vote wisely. Vote your conviction and avoid violence. We'll do this same time again tomorrow. I'm Uche Onyekudi. Bye for now.
And I'm Justin Akademi. Join us tomorrow when we'll be continuing our countdown to the 2019 polls. Do have yourselves a wonderful day. Bye for now.